Hey everybody, I'm Joe, and welcome back to our City Skylines playthrough on Calhoun Falls. This is episode 3, and we're just taking a nice look at the northern lights over this mountain here. In episode 1, I said it would be really pretty, and I think I was right. So this is episode 3, and we are in winter, and it has snowed a little bit since we came back. I let the game run for a little bit to try and get a little bit of extra money in our simulation, and to let some more people move into our industrial district, as well as our canal district that we made here. I zoned in the rest of this section with these medium density 2x4 houses, and I also put a little bit of businesses down here. I think I put a bit of a park down here, and I think I might want to make this area a little bit for businesses too, or possibly this areas. I think I'd like to use the perfectly square or rectangular areas for houses mainly, and the triangular areas here for businesses. Because my idea is for these streets along the river to maybe be more of through streets, perhaps. Some of these still have a bit of parking, which is nice, and we could also make some public transport go along there. Now, the fun part is that this street also goes diagonally, so you could, say, get from here to here more easily than if you wanted to go bloop, right? You could potentially go along this diagonal street. The distance would be lower because of trigonometry, and that would generate more traffic along here, so the businesses could thrive a bit more. Anyway, we're not quite there yet. I also made this nice little plaza area with these mixed-use buildings here, and I put some offices behind them. And I put a little low-density business here. I needed a few more people, so I put in some low-rent housing right here, and I think I'd like to build a parking garage in this area. And I think when we get it set up, I'd also like to build a train station here, I believe, or maybe here. I think this would be a little bit better because it would give us some better access to our people that would walk from here to the train station. I don't envision this little area as being our main downtown. I think that might go, over here or maybe down here or something like that. But I would like to put, say, a university campus, over here, and maybe some big office buildings and some more of our heavy industry over here where the wind will continue to blow it off the map. So we could have a train going along this way and stopping there, and then be a different one kind of going along this highway to our downtown area somewhere over here, and maybe some trams could connect into that train station as well, because remember I said I wanted this street to have a tram on it. Anyway, I think that for this episode, what we want to do is get ourselves some more population in this area so that our schools come up to capacity. And to do that, we might build another low-density block kind of here, because I want to buy some more land tiles like I was doing over here, and I want to kind of connect up this highway with this highway more directly. So I think I want this highway to kind of go diagonally more along over here. And I think, again, I'd like to build out a university campus somewhere over here. Now, I might want to put that here in this down area that our highway is going to bypass, but again, that will necessitate buying a lot of land tiles and building a proper highway that looks more like this. To that end, I have not bought the highways yet, but we have enough development points to be able to do so. And I also want to get a little bit more money, because the other thing I want to do is to build an actual power plant to get these citizens here some electricity, because our wind turbine access isn't great. I did try to unlock some more renewable power, like this hydroelectric power plant, but it costs, $2 million, and I was hoping maybe we could put it here-ish if we bought the tile, but it would cost $2 million, so we're not going to do that. I also bought this geothermal power plant in the hope that we could possibly put it here, maybe, so that could work well. but we don't have enough money for that either. So I'm going to let the game run for a little bit, and then I will come back when I have enough money to do either of those things, and I'll show you what I've done. And welcome back, everyone, to Calhoun Falls. Now, I've let the game run for about a year of in-game time. We made about $1 million, and we leveled up to level 8, and I pretty much immediately spent it all on a small coal power plant, which I finally bothered to get in this area. That actually saves us a bit of money a month, even though it costs a lot. We were importing about $100,000 a month of electricity, and now we're exporting a little bit, but it costs us about $100,000 a month, so that's kind of unfortunate. Anyway, we also bought this incineration plant and this landfill because we were having huge problems with trash. We also had to turn down the service budget on the trash and recycling because it was bankrupting us. So that this building costs a lot in wages and maintenance every month, so we had to turn that down after we bought it a lot. And what these people also need is a post office, but I can't afford that because I bought this tile, which will help us with our highway project. I changed the entrance highway to the city from, instead of going just directly in here like I built it at the start, I'm now making them go into this cut-out highway, which I think looks pretty cool, and I think it'll look really cool when we have all of the streets crossing on top of it up and down this area and traffic flowing nicely underneath there. I've made it a 4-lane highway for most of the way, and I've given it these 2-lane off-ramps, which have a stoplight right on these medium-sized streets that formed the big outline of our city. So I have one here at the start of our city, and then I skipped this one because we don't need it for now, and I think we do want to skip that one because we want a lot more local traffic to just use this street instead of the highway. So then I've started this other interchange over here, the city. I've set this in about 1 block from the street that goes, the big street that goes parallel to it. So hopefully that will give these traffic a bit of runway to get on the big street at these interchanges, right? It won't be too far away, but hopefully they'll be able to do it. And maybe eventually we'll have a highway going up and down this way, but I think this one should be able to handle a lot of that traffic for now. So why I bought that tile is that I want to make this highway go at a 45-degree angle now until it gets to somewhere around here perhaps, and then I want to send it to go this way. So I might have it come to here-ish and then branch off in a T-junction going down this way and then going over this way. The ironic part, I think, is that I want the highway to be right about here where the incineration plant is, or maybe I'll have it be right here. Actually, I think one of the highway interchanges will be right about here. So I might build that a little bit, but either way, I'd like it to be in this block that we barely have room to build in. So I might build that quickly and let the game run for a little bit more and then come back. I don't believe we'll be able to keep this connection point to Round Rock, but that's okay because we'll get a connection point to an equivalent place. So yeah, I am gonna do that, and then we will be back when that happens. And we've also started to get enough industry over here that we are having some traffic pile up at the peak times when everybody gets off work and everybody gets on work. So another thing we want to do when we get the money is to set up a bus connection from this area to this area before we get those trains and trams set up. Now, I've also built a lot more of the city. As you can see here, I've filled in this block of these medium density houses, and I put a little park and business area down here, which I thought looked nice, and we unlocked the signature building of Polaris Suites. So I put that in and I gave them a little park. What's really neat is that this park connects to the sidewalk that these people have built into this building. So a lot of people walk through this park, and it's nice to see them doing that. It looks like there's a few homeless people in this park too, so we will have to figure out how to deal with the homeless people. But that's a relatively new introduction to this game, and I'm not totally sure how to deal with the homeless people yet. So we might have to figure that one out together. But either way, I think this area is looking really nice with our canal district here. And I also built that big parking building I was talking about later, and it's about half full, which is good. So they still have, to me, that means they still have enough street parking near their houses that they're not desperate enough to park in this thing. I also gave them a little parking lot here, and they filled that up really quickly, even though I turned up the parking fee to be 50. So maybe the wealthiest residents can park their cars really close to their homes, and everybody else can use the cheap parking lot, which I set at 15, or they can park on the street. And I actually set a street parking fee of $10 only for this canal district. So hopefully that will incentivize them to use this parking building, which a lot of them are. So yeah, I am going to set up that highway connection so that we don't have to do this kind of highway connection anymore, because that's creating a lot of traffic. And I can't really move this highway connection in here because I'd like to put it here, but I can't build outside of the territory that I have purchased or been given initially here. So this is going to have to just be a problem area for now, which we'll have to deal with, but thankfully it's away from a lot of our residents. We got enough people to move in here that this couplet was starting to back up as well. So I also added in, when I built out this block, these other connections here. And while I'm on this point, while I built this section, you might notice that some of these are 4x6s and some of them are 4x4s. I actually think the design of these buildings with the little backyard in the back of one house but not the other, it actually looks really nice to have this little like courtyard strip going down with these kind of equally sized buildings on either side of it. So I actually think that looks really nice, but it is quite incidental that it turned out that way. On this side, we have all of them being 4x6 buildings, and they are behaving a lot differently, which I think is really curious. And if you guys have an explanation for this that you found, I would love to hear it, because this is a really neat aesthetic that they've got over here. While over here on this side, it looks like they've just optimized their space to have some street parking, or parking lot parking, which faces the street. So that's a choice that those residents made, I guess. I think this area looks a lot nicer, but hey, that's the game. So yeah, I'm going to build that highway connection, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to Calhoun Falls. I've put in this part of the highway, or at least part of the highway junction. I didn't have enough map tiles bought to be able to put in the other half of the highway junction, but I was miraculously able to get in both sides of the highway. So that's good, which technically for this part is all we need so far, because I've connected them in this roundabout fashion to where people could, once we buy all of these tiles, they can come in from this part of the city, enter, do their bidding, and then come back out and go the other way back around the highway. Now, I think you can, well, hopefully can start to see my vision here with this part going over here, and then connecting up to this diagonal part, which I made over here. This did really allow me to notice that this highway is taking up a lot of land area. You know, pretty much all of because of the way I've built this in this cut and fill method, pretty much all of these blocks are no longer useful. So I thought about remedying that by making this small pedestrian street right here. I think pedestrians can do it both ways, but I clicked it as a one-way street just because. And this might give us some buildable land area over here, it looks like, but maybe not very much. So I might instead make this into, the inside of the highway, into a tree corridor of sorts, which I think would hopefully look a bit nicer. These areas in here, in this part of the highway where it's straight along parallel to the grid, should be easier to build in because we could, for example, take a long parking lot and just plop it in there, and it would fit real nice because we can get a buildable section of road right in here. So maybe that will be more useful when we have more mass transit available. This could also be a mass transit area. But either way, the reason that this is working here is that these appear to be a bit farther apart than they are up here, just because of the way I've decided to do the diagonal. I suppose I could go back and fix that, but when I was building this road initially, the parallel lane tool was not working for me. I wanted it to be an offset of 3, and it just doesn't, if I can show it to you here, it doesn't quite give you it doesn't give you an offset of 3. Maybe it does in some sense of the word, but not in the sense that there are 3 buildable spaces in between these roads, which is what I want. If I set it to 4, it would do what I wanted a little bit better, but still, this is now in the middle, so this is actually a separation of 3.5, not 4, and the separation of 3 seems to actually be 2.5, not 3. So neither of these options do what I want, so I had to build this manually, which is not a big deal, but it means that this is a lot weirder than it may seem to be at first glance because of the way it's built. But, again, that may make transit a little bit easier here, because we could try experimenting with a small pedestrian street, say right here, and another one, well, let's see, that's not willing to give us any zoning, which is very strange, but maybe it would if we took another one. I was hoping maybe we could take a different one and build it out here, and this one actually is willing to give us the pedestrian street. We could have a kind of a weird pedestrian street couplet going on, but this is technically a bridge, so they're both technically bridges, so it's not willing to let us do any of that. But I was hoping that that would look pretty nice, but it doesn't, so I'm going to bulldoze that. And either way, we're getting a little bit more money, so I'm going to spend that money on some tiles, and we're going to try to get this connected up. So another thing that we're going to do while we have bought these tiles is we're going to start putting some of these tiles to good use. And we've got this oil here, and I bought some tiles and built the highway, so we only have about $13,000 left, so hopefully we'll be able to do this. I am going to build out an area that we can use for our oil industry, so I'm going to try and set that up, and hopefully that will bring in some more revenue to our city. And now we've put in that oil production into our city. I've plopped down a bit more roads here in this area where our oil is at, and we've got 3 oil production areas going. I'd like to extend these to be 2 blocks long and 1 block wide each, because I think that will look nice with the main building there. All these people are starting to employ people, and hopefully they are starting to drill some oil. Looks like they're only starting to drill a little bit of oil, but that's okay because they are just starting. And on our natural resources, it looks like we have a decent amount of oil here. I believe that this 9,000 is in pounds, maybe, because it says we have 413 tons. So hopefully we'll be able to drill all that. What I don't know is if the oil drilling only takes place within this area. So for example, if these get done, will we still have oil in this area over here and in this area over here, or will these 3 just suck up from the entire oil deposit? I would imagine that they just sucked up from the entire oil deposit, but I don't know. Let me know if I'm wrong, which I very much could be. Anyway, we are definitely going to have to move the incineration plant because of where I've decided to put the highway, but that's alright. As I said in episode 1 and episode 2, City Skylines is a game about building something and then realizing you built it wrong and then having to move it. And you end up doing that 4 or 5 times before you're satisfied. And we don't have to buy too many more tiles to connect our 2 pieces of the city. Now, this kind of does go counter to a lot of other advice that I've heard about the game, where you don't want to buy a bunch of tiles too early and then end up having to pay the tile upkeep balance for it. But usually once you get a good amount of money stored up and a good amount of economic production, you will just be able to afford to buy as many tiles as you want, and this starts to be negligible. Now I know that the tile buying cost and tile upkeep does increase a bit more. Like, this isn't exactly linear in that I'll need these 4 tiles for 200,000, but I could just buy this one for less than 50,000. But either way, these are the 4 tiles I need, so I will need $200,000 to do that. And I don't really feel like waiting, although I could wait. So I think that I will just take out a loan temporarily, and then we will repay it back. We only need a $200,000 loan, which is not very much. So I will go ahead and get that, and then I will buy these 4 tiles. And now we should be able to connect up our highway, and our new highway is done. Hopefully people start using it, and it looks like they are. Let's just see. It's called the Hyacinth Highway in both directions because we've gotten this thing here. And it looks like a fair amount of people are using this for the through traffic connection, but not necessarily the local traffic connection. So what I might do is I might just bulldoze this highway connection so that our people use the bigger one. And in fact, that is what I think I'll do. So everyone's going to reroute, and they're all going to use the bigger highway. So we should start seeing traffic on that begin to spike, which it looks like we are as all of these vehicles progress down Manor Street. I do think it's fun just to watch the traffic flow in this game, and I do think it's honestly really relaxing just to build out these blocks. So if you're wondering why I've built so many of these blank blocks, that's why. I just find it relaxing. So Now, I do think that we might want to keep a coastal highway connection of sorts in this area, but I don't want it exactly here. I think maybe for that we would just use this regular street and not necessarily a highway for that purpose. And then we could put our university that I was talking about right around here maybe, and we could make a nice, beltway type of thing for that. I don't know exactly where this intersection will be, and hopefully it won't be right in the middle of a big crossing of two streets. I would like to note that this grid is slightly different than this grid, because I made them at different times and I wasn't able to connect them to each other. So if we go back, if we trace out the Hyacinth Highway over to here, we can see that it is really close to being in the right spot, but not quite. I didn't do any guessing or eyeballing of that, so I guess to illustrate that, let's pull that over there, and 180 degrees would put us right about here, which is just ever so close to being in the right spot, because I would want it to be right here, right on this top side of this inner 3x3 square here of the city block, and it's right on that road. So when we build out the grid from this area and connect these two places up, we will need to do a little finagling to make this grid connect to that grid. But hopefully in the university area, with this bend here anyways, we'll have to do some finagling, so it shouldn't be too noticeable, and hopefully the grids won't be too off from one another. We may just end up having to have a block of streets that's just like super screwed up, and maybe we'll make that into a couplet with a weird sized interior. I think that's a good idea, and I think we'll go with that. So our highway that we just built is getting a good amount of traffic because we are forcing everyone to use this highway. And now, unfortunately, this interchange is getting a little backed up. See, what I kind of would like on these interchanges is for either of these two lanes to be able to go left or right, depending on what we want. So what I could do, honestly, is I could just upgrade this to a 4-lane going in, and then we would have 2 lanes for coming in and 2 lanes for coming out, which I might actually do. And I think that I kind of don't like how that looks. But if I do it on this side, I like how it looks a little bit more, but it takes up, a bit more of the space, which isn't tragic because this is still a 6x6, and so I think that would work fine. There's no need to do it for the on-ramp to the highway, because hopefully that shouldn't get too backed up, but you never know, it might. So it might actually be a good idea to do this too, and that will give these people 2 turning lanes to go up onto here, and then they will just have to merge, but because of the traffic light, they should be able to do that relatively efficiently. So I think that this design of the highway interchange, or intersection, or just the exit, is one that we may have to go with. And what I also think that I want to do here is make this a no going straight. So I'd like it if these guys are able to make a right on red like we do in the United States. In most parts of the United States, there is a law which means that if there is a red light and it's safe to do it, you can just turn right in the direction of traffic. So these guys should, if we were where I live, all be making right turns here, and this should be all good and copacetic. But they're not doing that, and they're still only using one lane to get off the highway, which is not exactly what I wanted, because now we're getting an enormous amount of traffic being backed up. So for now, what I'm going to do is turn off the traffic light, and I'm going to turn it off here too. I'm going to make it so they can't make left turns. And we are going to put in our roundabout right there. So hopefully all these people will figure out that they can do that. And what I did to get that 2 on lanes, 2 off lanes, and to get them to line up really nicely is to do it like this. There's a weird trick to it, which means you have to downgrade it to a 3-lane highway first, and then downgrade it again to a 2-lane highway. And these people still aren't doing what I want, so I'm going to try re-upgrading that to this type of highway, and then doing it like this. So now that should be working well, and we are going to copy that on the other side for the sake of symmetry. And unfortunately, to these people turning left here, they are just going to have to deal with a messed up intersection. So this seems to be working reasonably well to clear out all the traffic on this highway. Again, it's just because we only have one highway intersection here, they all just have to go around this roundabout. So it's the same backup problem that we had over here. We've just now moved the pinch point over to here, which I think is why I'd like to keep that coastal highway along here. Now, one thing that we do need in this area is some mail, because the people have no mail, and it would be great if they had mail. How many times can one man say mail? So what I think we should actually put here is a post office, a proper one, but that costs a lot. So I am going to put in this small post office instead, and if I can get it to sit back where it was, that would be lovely. And I can. I was going to put it there, but I think that I'd actually like to put it in the exact same spot that I had it. So we've got a post office there now. And we should also put a firehouse in this area for good measure. And unfortunately, we don't have enough room for it right in this spot. I like to try putting these things all together to make our city a little bit neater. But we could possibly do some creative rearranging. Like if we moved this road down to here, I believe we could fit both of them in there. So I am going to do that. So now we've got it to where we can fit both of these things in here, doing some creative rearranging of the roads. We could also do something similar over here, where the grid is really messed up. And I think that would actually be potentially better, because it will will hide up the grid. Or we could just put a parking lot there, which, maybe that would be a good idea. Anyway, our post, we are getting pretty behind on the mail rate and mail availability. So that's another reason why I wanted to put a firehouse over here. The response time is getting to be substantially high in this area, and some of our buildings are starting to burn down. Now our buildings are starting to level up, which is good, but that means that we don't want them to burn down even more. And we appear to have cleared out our traffic here, and this roundabout is flowing kind of smoothly. So that's good. Hopefully this roundabout will give people enough room to move their vehicles in and out of this area without backing up too much. And I still have this external connection here to bring goods in and out of the city. So hopefully that should give them some room going down Bayberry Street and Eastgate Street. So I might let that run for a little bit to see how it goes. And I think a lot of the shift ends around 4 or 5 p.m. and it's about 1 p.m. in-game now. So I might go ahead and cut back in when that happens. So it is starting to get to be around quitting time for everybody. And we can see here that people actually are starting to use our parking alleys as well as street parking. So I'm now a little bit more glad that we've added that. Although I still believe that strictly we wouldn't need it. But I think as more people work in these buildings, you see this is 62 employees can work in this building. And, as we add more public transit, we might not need it. But, if this continues to be a car-centric part of the neighborhood or city, more people will need to drive cars to get here, and they'll need more parking. But traffic is starting to build up along Bayberry and Eastgate streets in this part of the city, and it is starting to be routed onto the highway. These traffic lights are spreading out the pulses of traffic a little bit, so it doesn't totally mess up too much. And I did take off the traffic light here just so it would actually flow. No one's going to run into each other here because we haven't connected the other side of the intersection yet, so there's no reason why they would be doing anything to make themselves crash. It does say traffic jam here, but I think that's only because of the traffic light, and it's because they are going down to one lane at this part of the road. So that's on me for forgetting to change it to be 3 lanes going into this roundabout. Then these people will stay in their lanes and they will be able to continue on through to hopefully get 2 lanes of traffic coming into this roundabout and doing that. Although it doesn't really seem like they're willing to do that, so let's try to coax them into it a little further. Now the problem here is that this is giving us 2 left turn, quote-unquote left turn lanes, when we don't really want it to be doing that in our roundabout. So I kind of wish that we could fix that. However, the flow of traffic around this roundabout so far, because we don't have any buildings around here contributing to it, is reasonably good, and so they are able to merge down to 1 lane on this part of the road and pull into that intersection. So that went surprisingly well, and our EMTs are moving pretty quick down this road. There is a city policy that lets you just turn off the speed limit for highways. It causes a few more car accidents, but I think that might be very worthwhile. Here it is in the city information. We want high-speed highways, actually, so it gets rid of all of the highway speed limits, which I feel like we want currently, but that unlocks at milestone 10, so we don't need to get that. We can also change the taxi fare, which we could increase or decrease depending on what we like. We could turn on this policy to import city services. I don't think we want to do that though, because I think that this can get pretty expensive. I do like this one because it does increase the accumulation of garbage, but you can get a lot more garbage dumps and incinerators, and so that can help you manage it very effectively. So that's good. Now you will notice that I do still have a lot of these traffic lights on this highway, or not this highway, this road, Valley Street, which is not what I want to do. And we're going to add in our roundabout here, and that'll get rid of the traffic light. But if you have seen what I was doing over in the industrial area, the way I've been doing this is to turn off the traffic light and give these no left turns. So this is only a road coming out into this place over here, which see there's a no enter sign. So this road alley only comes out and it allows some parking, and then that allows these people to just turn right over there. And I usually also like to remove the crosswalks in these because they're not very necessary, but sometimes pedestrians just tend to cross the street anyway if you put like a tram stop here or something. I do also really like to do this design that I formulated in my last city to do it this way, because you can use a lot of these 5-lane roads that don't have parking areas on these big streets. And when we get the bus lanes, we can see that it takes up one of those lanes and still leaves you with a 3-lane road with bus lanes. Now if you have the bus lanes on these type of roads, you can stack the tram lines on top of those public transport lanes, and I think that's quite fun. However, the tram tends to get stuck at the stoplights a lot, and doing it with this way where you have this extra node, it gives you some more granular control over where to put the tram stop and how much room the bus stop takes up. So for example, if you're putting up a bus stop on this kind of the road, I can't put one up to demonstrate because I haven't bought any bus stations yet, but if I were to put a bus station on the left side of the road here, it would take up this entire street. It would basically do this wide sidewalk for that entire side of the street, and you would lose that whole lane. I suppose putting the public transport lane on the road also makes you lose the entire lane. However, turning traffic and emergency service vehicles and city service vehicles like taxis and garbage trucks and whatnot can still use those lanes. So I think they're a little bit more robust than just putting a bus stop there and having the whole lane be the bus stop. And plus you can get the tram to run through them, like I said. So I think that's a really good option for doing this, is it gives you a lot of flexibility with this thing. However, it can't be done manually with the grid tool as I showed in episode 1. So you do just have to end up doing this manually a lot, and since I've built out the city's blocks so much, I will have to manually change a lot of them, which is the downfall of doing this, is that you do have to do it manually and you have to do a lot manually. Anyway, we've accomplished a lot in this episode, I think, and I believe our goals for the next episode will be to expand out the city and potentially making a wind farm over here so we can then connect up with our high voltage power line these two ends of the city, because now we've bought enough tiles to connect them. And that will let us get rid of this coal power plant and move to a fully non-polluting source. The wind turbines, which I believe are also much cheaper. So we've got 22 megawatts of electricity here for $100,000 a month. Doing that would take 4 wind turbines, which would only take about $3,500 a month, and it would cost way less of our money. So I would like to do that in the next episode, and I will see you guys then. So thank you for watching our Calhoun Falls City Skylines 2 playthrough. This was episode 3, and I'm Joe. Thanks for watching, and try to come back for the next one.